The journey of learning English. When I first started learning English, I never imagined that it would become such an important part of my life. It all began in my hometown, where English was taught as a foreign language in school, but I never felt a strong connection to it. At that time, English seemed distant and difficult, just a subject to pass in exams. As I progressed through school, I realized how important English was becoming in the world. I saw people from different countries communicating effortlessly in English, watching movies, listening to music, and reading books in English. That was when I decided to make a serious effort to improve my English skills. The journey wasn't easy. At first, I struggled with grammar rules, vocabulary, and pronunciation. I found myself frustrated when I couldn't understand English speakers in movies or make a proper conversation with my friends who were fluent. I made mistakes all the time, but each mistake was a lesson. One of the turning points in my journey was discovering the power of practice. I started to watch movies and TV shows in English, first with subtitles, then without them. I listened to English music and tried to understand the lyrics. At first, I couldn't grasp much, but little by little, I started recognizing words and phrases. This was when I realized that language learning wasn't just about memorizing rules, it was about exposure and practice. I also found that speaking English with native speakers was one of the most effective ways to improve. I joined online communities and participated in language exchange programs. The first time I had a conversation with someone who spoke English fluently, I was nervous, but I pushed myself to speak without worrying too much about making mistakes. Gradually, I became more confident. Another key element was reading. I began by reading simple books, children's stories, and articles. As my vocabulary grew, I started reading novels and more complex texts. I loved how reading allowed me to experience different cultures and perspectives, while also improving my language skills. Writing was another challenge I faced. In the beginning, I struggled to write essays and emails in English. But with regular practice, I began to express myself more clearly. I started journaling in English, writing about my day, my thoughts, and my experiences. This helped me think in English, and over time, I could write more fluidly. One of the most rewarding experiences was traveling to English-speaking countries. When I traveled, I was forced to use English in real-life situations, such as ordering food, asking for directions, and making friends. This immersion helped me improve my language skills faster than I could have imagined. Now, looking back on my journey, I realize how far I've come. English is no longer just a subject in school, it has become a part of my daily life. I use it for work, communication, entertainment, and personal growth. While I still make mistakes, I've learned to embrace them as opportunities to learn and grow. The most important thing I've learned through my journey is that language learning is not a destination, but a continuous process. As I continued to improve my English, I discovered that technology could be a powerful tool in my learning process. Language learning apps became my daily companions, helping me build my vocabulary, practice pronunciation, and reinforce grammar. Apps like Duolingo, Memrise, and Babbel turned language learning into a fun and interactive experience. I could practice English anytime, anywhere, whether I was commuting, waiting in line, or relaxing at home. These apps helped me track my progress and set achievable goals, which motivated me to keep going. In addition to these apps, I found that online platforms such as YouTube were a goldmine for learning. There are countless channels dedicated to teaching English in a way that's engaging and practical. One of my favorite channels focused on everyday conversations, which helped me learn how to speak like a native. I followed along with their lessons and tried to mimic the way native speakers formed sentences, their intonations, and expressions. Watching English language videos about various topics, from cooking to technology, opened my mind to different accents and dialects, helping me become more flexible in my listening and speaking skills. As much as I loved learning with apps and online videos, I quickly realized that true language mastery involves more than just passive learning. To make meaningful progress, I needed to engage in real conversations with others. One way I did this was by participating in online language exchange programs. Platforms like Tandem and HelloTalk allowed me to connect with native English speakers who were also learning my native language. These exchanges were invaluable because they allowed me to practice speaking with real people, receive feedback, and learn about different cultures through conversation. I also started attending language meetups in my city. These meetups were a great opportunity to practice speaking English in a social setting. At first, I was nervous and self-conscious, but as I attended more events, I grew more comfortable with speaking. I realized that the people I met at these meetups were there to improve their language skills too, so everyone was patient and encouraging. The atmosphere was supportive, and I learned a lot from interacting with others who were also learning English. Through these various methods, I began to feel more confident in my English abilities. I was no longer afraid to make mistakes, because I knew that making mistakes was a natural part of the learning process. I embraced the idea that every error was a step toward improvement. This mindset shift allowed me to approach the language with a sense of curiosity rather than fear. One of the most exciting milestones in my journey was when I started reading books in English. At first, I picked up simple books that were geared toward young readers. I focused on understanding the story, the characters, and the context. As my vocabulary and comprehension skills grew, I began to challenge myself with more complex texts, including novels and non-fiction books. I enjoyed discovering new authors and reading about topics that sparked my curiosity, such as psychology, history, and technology. Reading in English not only improved my vocabulary, but also gave me a deeper understanding of how the language is used in different contexts. Writing in English also became an important part of my learning. I began by writing short essays and journal entries, but over time, I started writing longer pieces like blog posts and even short stories. Writing allowed me to organize my thoughts, practice new vocabulary, and develop a clearer writing style. The more I wrote, the better I became at expressing myself in English. I also started to receive feedback from others, which helped me refine my writing and identify areas for improvement. Despite the progress I had made, I realized that learning English was not just about achieving fluency. It was also about gaining access to a world of knowledge, culture, and opportunities. English opened doors to new experiences, whether it was traveling to different countries, working with international colleagues, or participating in online discussions with people from all walks of life. It was a bridge that connected me to people, ideas, and perspectives from around the world. Traveling to English-speaking countries was an unforgettable part of my journey. I had the chance to immerse myself in the language and culture, interact with locals, and navigate daily life in English. Whether I was ordering food at a restaurant, asking for directions, or simply chatting with a stranger, I was constantly using English in real-life situations. This immersion helped me improve my speaking and listening skills dramatically. It also gave me a new appreciation for the power of language to connect people from different backgrounds. One of the most rewarding aspects of learning English has been the relationships I've built with people from different cultures. I've met friends and colleagues from all over the world, and we've shared ideas, experiences, and stories in English. These connections have broadened my horizons and made me more open-minded. I've learned that language is not just a tool for communication, it's a way to understand and appreciate the diversity of human experience. Looking back on my journey, I can say that learning English has been one of the most fulfilling experiences of my life. It has opened doors to new opportunities, allowed me to connect with people from around the world, and helped me grow personally and professionally. While the journey isn't over, I now feel more confident in my ability to continue learning and improving. English is no longer just a language I study, it's a part of who I am. The path to mastering a language is long and challenging, but it's also incredibly rewarding. Each day spent learning, practicing, and improving brings new insights and experiences. I'm excited to continue my journey with English, knowing that the more I learn, the more I can explore the world and share my story with others. As I became more proficient in English, I realized that living in a multicultural and multilingual society brought both challenges and opportunities. In such a society, English was not just a language I used to communicate with people from different countries, it became the bridge that connected me to a wider range of ideas, traditions, and perspectives. I found that the more I understood English, the more I could engage with the global community, whether online or offline. In my daily life, I encountered people from various cultural backgrounds, each with their own unique customs, values, and ways of thinking. It was fascinating to learn about how people from different parts of the world viewed topics such as family, work, education, and social life. For example, I met people from the United States who valued individualism and independence, while my friends from Asian countries often emphasized the importance of family and community. These differences were not just intriguing, they were opportunities for me to grow and expand my worldview. At first, navigating these cultural differences was a bit overwhelming. I was constantly adjusting to new customs, learning how to communicate in ways that were respectful to others' traditions, and sometimes struggling to understand jokes, references, or idioms that were rooted in specific cultural contexts. However, I soon realized that this was a natural part of living in a multicultural society. The key was to approach these challenges with an open mind and a willingness to learn. English became the common thread that allowed me to participate in these cultural exchanges. Whether it was discussing food, festivals, or different perspectives on social issues, English was the language that enabled us to share our ideas and understand each other. I came to appreciate how language reflects cultural values and how learning a new language can open doors to understanding different ways of life. For instance, while learning English, I was introduced to new concepts that I hadn't encountered in my native language. Words like sustainability, empowerment, and mindfulness didn't just have specific meanings, they carried with them cultural significance that shaped the way people thought and lived in English-speaking countries. Living in such a diverse society also meant that I was constantly exposed to different accents, dialects, and varieties of English. I realized that there was no single correct way to speak English, and that the beauty of the language lay in its diversity. I encountered people from the UK, Australia, the US, India, and many other countries, each bringing their own unique flavor to the language. This made me more adaptable in my listening skills, as I learned to appreciate and understand various accents and speech patterns. At the same time, I realized that my own accent was a part of my identity, and I learned to embrace it with pride, while still aiming to speak clearly and be understood by others. One of the most valuable lessons I learned from living in such a diverse environment was the importance of empathy and respect. Language is more than just words, it's a reflection of culture, history, and personal experiences. I realized that when I communicated with people, it was not just about speaking correctly, it was about listening attentively, understanding their perspective, and showing respect for their backgrounds. This is especially true when it comes to sensitive topics like religion, politics, and social issues. English allowed me to engage in discussions with people from different walks of life, but it was my empathy and open-mindedness that helped me connect with them on a deeper level. As I became more comfortable in this multilingual society, I began to notice how language was intertwined with social dynamics. In the workplace, for example, English became the common language used to facilitate communication among colleagues from different countries. This helped break down barriers and promoted collaboration. However, I also learned that language proficiency didn't automatically guarantee effective communication. It was important to be mindful of cultural differences in communication styles. Some cultures value directness and clarity, while others may prefer a more indirect approach. Understanding these subtleties helped me navigate social and professional interactions more smoothly. In social settings, English provided me with the opportunity to form friendships with people from around the world. I joined clubs, attended events, and participated in group activities where English was the primary language of communication. These experiences allowed me to make friends from countries I had never imagined visiting, such as Brazil, Japan, and South Africa. Each of these friendships taught me something new about the world, whether it was learning how to cook traditional dishes, understanding different perspectives on social issues, or simply sharing stories about our childhoods. However, as much as I embraced living in this multilingual environment, I also had to confront certain challenges. One of the difficulties I encountered was the sense of being constantly on. In a society where English was the primary language of communication, I often found myself in situations where I had to speak, listen, and think in English for extended periods of time. This could be exhausting, especially when I was learning new vocabulary or trying to express complex ideas. But over time, I learned how to manage this mental effort by giving myself breaks, practicing mindfulness, and remembering that language learning is a gradual process. Another challenge was the occasional feeling of isolation that came from being in a multilingual society. While English connected me to a broader world, it also sometimes made me feel like I was missing out on deeper connections with people who spoke my native language. In these moments, I learned to appreciate the balance between maintaining my own cultural identity and embracing the new experiences that English and a multicultural environment brought me. I realized that learning English didn't mean losing my identity, it meant expanding my horizons and enriching my life with diverse perspectives. Living in a multicultural, multilingual society has been one of the most enriching aspects of my English learning journey. It has taught me the value of diversity, the importance of empathy, and the power of language to connect people across cultural boundaries. While the challenges are real, the rewards are immense. English is not just a tool for communication, it is a bridge that connects me to a world of ideas, relationships, and experiences that I never could have imagined before. As I continue to live in this globalized society, I know that my journey with English will evolve. The more I learn, the more I understand how language shapes the way we think, feel, and connect with others. English has not only helped me communicate with people around the world, but it has also helped me understand myself better. It is, and will always be, a key that opens doors to new opportunities and enriches my life in ways I never thought possible.